All right, everyone, I was looking for info as to exactly what that live picture was. It looks like the Canadian Prime Minister not quite done in our nation's capital. Matter of fact, he's going to be holding his own news conference here in moments, live on News Now, which is a part of Fox10Phoenix.com.
Do you want him to? Can you please? I'm just kidding.
About the Raptors? the basketball squad? We know all about that.
Yeah, we know all about that. Yeah. Conquering heroes and all.
Thank you, Christian. Bon après-midi tout le monde. Merci d'être des nôtres. We just wrapped up a productive visit here in Washington, during which I met with President Trump. It was a chance for us to talk about how we can continue to work together to improve the lives of working people and grow our economies. Trade was, of course, top of mind. With over $2 billion of cross-border trade every single day, we can't overstate how important free trade is to the Canada-U.S. relationship. Millions of people and businesses depend on a strong economic partnership between our two countries to make ends meet. That's why we worked incredibly hard with our North American partners to secure a new NAFTA, which will protect our supply chains, create new opportunities for people, and grow the middle class. C'est un accord qui est bon pour le Canada et bon pour les Canadiens. Notre gouvernement a donc déposé un projet de loi rapidement pour ratifier le nouvel ALENA et faire de cet accord une réalité. At the same time, we still have some outstanding issues to resolve on the trade front, like the imposition of American duties on Canadian softwood lumber. Now, our industries depend on the flow of goods between our two countries. For instance, Canada is a stable and reliable source of uranium for American civil nuclear reactors. So at the end of the day, maintaining access is important for Canada and the U.S. alike. President Trump and I agreed to continue working together to address these issues, as well as other challenges we both face, like steel and aluminum dumping and other unfair trading practices. We also talked about the importance of keeping our shared border secure and efficient so we can reduce trade barriers. Delays at the border can easily disrupt operations for Canadian and American business owners, so we want to remove some of these obstacles to expand trade while keeping our people safe. In this vein, the President and I committed to ratifying the new pre-clearance agreement this summer, which will make it possible to extend pre-clearance of travelers at land, rail, and marine facilities in both countries, as well as at additional airports. It will also enable the pre-clearance of cargo. We also talked about implementing the Entry-Exit Initiative this summer. Thousands of people cross our shared land border every single day, whether it be for business or travel purposes. The Entry-Exit Initiative will make this process more efficient while making sure our border remains safe and secure. It's also worth noting that the initiative includes provisions aimed at protecting individual and privacy rights, which is of prime importance to both the President and me. Another thing on the agenda today was the opioid crisis and its impacts. Unfortunately, this is another challenge we share with our southern neighbors. The President and I have both seen the devastating consequences of illegal drugs on individuals, on families, and on our communities. Building on existing efforts, we agreed to co-develop a strategy to address every aspect of this crisis. We will continue to work together at every level, municipal, provincial, and national, to save lives. Je parle beaucoup des défis qu'on espère relever, mais on travaille aussi ensemble pour saisir de nouvelles opportunités et approfondir nos liens. Depuis l'arrivée au pouvoir du président, nous avons lancé plusieurs initiatives conjointes qui ont pour but de favoriser l'innovation, de créer des emplois et d'aider les gens à réussir. En février dernier, le Canada est devenu le premier partenaire international à se joindre au projet Lunar Gateway. Mené par la NASA, Lunar Gateway repoussera les limites du possible, stimulera la croissance économique et marquera le début d'un nouveau chapitre de notre collaboration dans l'espace. Canada and the U.S. have a proud history of innovating together, whether it be in the sciences, in the world of entertainment, or on matters of national security, and we must continue on this tradition. Not only does collaboration lead to growth and prosperity, it also helps us tackle emerging challenges more efficiently and effectively. And in the digital age, countries are grappling with new threats every single day. The rapid pace of change, coupled with advances in technology, have completely transformed the way we talk about national security and address new challenges. One thing President Trump and I discussed during our meeting was the need to improve our collective mineral security. Critical minerals used for defense, manufacturing, and high-tech industries are essential to our economies and to our security. We agreed to develop a strategy to encourage more cross-border collaboration and investments to ensure future competitiveness of our mineral industries and the safety and security of our supply chains. These are just some of the things we discussed over the course of our visit. Of course, I also spoke at length with the President about the wrongful detention of 2 Canadian citizens in China and continue to call for their immediate release. Next week, President Trump and I will have a chance to continue some of these conversations in Osaka, where we will both attend the G20 summit. I'm looking forward to building on the progress we made this week and working with our partners to address the most pressing issues facing our countries. Once again, thank you all for joining us. I'm now happy to take your questions.
Glenn McGregor, CTV News. Prime Minister, thanks for taking our questions. A year ago at this time, at the G7, the president left and called you weak and dishonest. And I wonder if you could talk about how your personal relationship with him has evolved in that time up until today.
I think one of the things that we've done since the very beginning of our mandate is maintain the focus on the things that matter in this relationship. That is the flow of goods across our border, the reduction of challenges that we faced, and continued to focus on what's good for the middle class and people working hard to join it in both of our countries. Throughout the NAFTA negotiations, which were contentious at times, absolutely, we remained focused on the things that really matter, and because of that, we've come through it with a very strong and positive relationship with the United States, and indeed are moving forward on the ratification of an accord that will secure this important relationship for years to come.
Trump has still not made an official state visit to Canada. That's unusual for U.S. presidents. Did you discuss that with him today, or have you invited him to come to Ottawa?
I was pleased to have welcomed President Trump up to beautiful Charlevoix last year, where we moved forward on a number of important initiatives. Just a few weeks ago, I was happy to welcome Vice President Pence to Ottawa to continue to discuss the kinds of important initiatives we're working on to grow our economies and support our middle class. And we will continue to work collaboratively with our American friends and partners on creating opportunities for Canadians and indeed for our citizens across the borders.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. Were you able to sway Nancy Pelosi at all in terms of ratification, and did anything concrete come out of your meeting in terms of NAFTA?
We had a very good meeting, not just with Speaker Pelosi, but with leadership from both sides of the House. And we had a very frank and positive conversation about the path forward to creating a better better opportunities for citizens, for workers on both sides of our border. I fully respect the conversations and discussions going on in their ratification process, have offered to be helpful in responding or allaying certain fears, but Canada is not going to get involved in the ratification process that the American Congress needs to go through. Okay. On a eu une très bonne conversation avec la présidente Pelosi et les représentants des deux côtés de la Chambre. La réalité, c'est que nous respectons énormément le processus de ratification qui doit se passer aux États-Unis. Et bien qu'on sera là pour répondre aux questions et aider là où on peut, on ne va pas s'immiscer dans le processus de ratification aux États-Unis. Ce serait inapproprié.
The president didn't seem to shut the door completely in terms of future tariffs. Were you satisfied with his answer?
One of the things that was clear when we got that full lift on steel and aluminum tariffs was the concerns we have around transshipment and potential dumping into the North American market remains shared by Canadians and Americans. That's why we have committed to working closely together to ensure the security of our domestic steel and aluminum industries, and why we have a very close collaboration set up to move forward on that. Indeed, I'm pleased to say that today the Senate just passed, and therefore we have passed in record time our bill on safeguards to ensure that the North American market on steel and aluminum remains protected from outside influences.
Prime Minister, in the horse trading that's going on in D.C. over ratification of NAFTA, if there are changes to it, will you reopen the agreement? How will you deal with changes that come from D.C.? Would you do them by cabinet approval, or would you give Parliament the opportunity?
We've obviously said a number of times that we are very pleased with the deal we were able to secure that ensures good jobs and good outcomes for Canadians and indeed people in all three of our countries. And we are concerned that any reopening of NAFTA could lead to not just lengthy further negotiations that we all were quite pleased were behind us, but also may lead to worse outcomes for Canadians and for Canada. We recognize, however, that the U.S. is going through its process, and we remain alert to potential challenges and opportunities that may come through that process.
Just to follow up on that, though, how do you intend to approve it? The Conservatives are already saying if there are any changes, even to, say, biologics, as the Democrats are asking, that they want the ability to tackle this again, to address those changes, to make additional changes, perhaps. What do you say to them?
We have been very clear that we need to have the right deal for Canadians. We need to be growing our economy, securing and protecting Canadian workers. We're pleased with the work that was able to be done by Chrystia and others and her great negotiating team on securing strong environmental provisions, securing Indigenous provisions, securing the support of labor for a number of the important measures that protect workers in all three countries that we move forward with. And we're going to keep that as the primary focus. As to what could happen hypothetically, I think Canadians just can be reassured that we are going to ensure that a good deal gets passed for Canadians as we secure access to the American market.
Adrian Morrow with the Globe and Mail. Did you specifically ask President Trump to press President Xi on COVID and Spavor and the sort of retaliatory trade actions that China is taking against us? And if so, what did the president actually commit to do? Like, is there something substantial he's going to do for Canada, or is he just going to sort of raise it and then move on to other issues?
We had an extended conversation on the situation that Canada is currently facing in regards to China and the unacceptable situation that two Canadian citizens are facing in the arbitrary detention by Chinese authorities of two Canadians. We discussed some of the challenges that China is presenting, not just to Canada, but to different sectors of the global economy. And we have certainly agreed that we will continue to work together as friends and allies to resolve these and other issues.
Did you raise the Meng Wanzhou extradition with President President Trump? And if so, did you ask him to, take the extradition off the table or to stop the extradition proceedings if he does in fact make a deal with China?
As I said, we had extensive conversations on the situation with China. It was a great opportunity for us to really have important discussions about China, about the Canadians who are detained, and about potential paths forward. We're going to continue to work with the safety and security and safe return of the Canadians who are arbitrarily detained at the top of mind.
Raphaël Bouvier-Auclair, Radio-Canada. Je veux revenir là-dessus, M. Trudeau. Est-ce que le président Trump s'est engagé à des gestes concrets? Il en a parlé tout à l'heure, mais est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose concrètement qui est prêt à faire, que ce soit une rencontre avec le président Xi ou en parler sérieusement lors du sommet du G20?
Nous savons que le président va avoir une rencontre avec le président Xi et on s'attend absolument à ce que le sujet des Canadiens qui sont détenus de façon arbitraire et injuste en Chine soit à l'ordre du jour. Nous nous attendons à ce que tous nos alliés, ce qu'ils ont fait d'ailleurs à travers le monde, pas juste les Américains, mais énormément de nos alliés ailleurs, ont souligné directement avec les autorités et leadership chinoises à quel point c'est inacceptable qu'ils aient détenu 2 Canadiens de façon arbitraire et injuste.
C'est à la demande des États-Unis qu'elle a été arrêtée, la directrice financière de Huawei, sur le territoire canadien en vertu des traités d'extradition. Est-ce que l'idée de retirer ce traité, ces accusations de la table a été évoquée dans votre discussion avec le président?
Nous continuons de respecter la règle de droit au Canada. Nous respectons nos partenariats et nos accords, y compris sur l'extradition avec les États-Unis. Nous avons eu une très bonne discussion sur la question de la Chine, dans laquelle j'ai vraiment mis l'emphase sur les préoccupations que non seulement moi, mais tous les Canadiens ont par rapport à la sécurité de ces 2 Canadiens qui ont été détenus de façon injuste et arbitraire par les autorités chinoises en réponse à une situation politique.
Jordan Benebigay with Indian Country Today. 2 days ago, Prime Minister, you approved the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline. What is your message to Indigenous nations where this pipeline will run through the reserves up in your country? And also, this pipeline will affect the waters that also provide resources to the tribal nations in the U.S.?
I am very pleased that there are many Indigenous communities across the pipeline route that are supportive of this project, have signed impact benefit agreements that will be moving forward as partners on the pipeline as we construct it. We know that moving forward in a way that both creates opportunities to create good jobs and grow while moving towards a cleaner, greener economy is something that all Canadians and indeed all citizens care about deeply around the world. That's why we've moved forward in a model way on consultation and partnership with Indigenous communities, and why we're going to continue to make sure that Indigenous communities are at the heart of the path forward, including, as we've announced, potential Indigenous ownership of the pipeline that could be 25%, 50%, or even 100% ownership by Indigenous peoples in this country of the expanded pipeline. We recognize, however, that there are people, including Indigenous communities, that are in disagreement in the way forward that we've chosen, and we will continue to listen to them and work with them to allay their fears and concerns.
Hi, I'm Luis Alonso with the AP. Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to ask you about Mexico, Mr. Prime Minister. President Trump and President López Obrador agreed to give a 45-day period for President Trump to consider whether or not to impose a 5% tariff on Mexico. So I wanted to ask you, if that 5% tariff becomes a reality, what do you see the impact, not only for the treaty, for the prospect of the treaty, but also what will be the impact for Canada?
I was pleased to see the Mexican Senate vote overwhelmingly to move forward on ratification of the new NAFTA agreement. There is no question that some of the strong elements in that deal are going to be good news for workers in Mexico. We ensure that there are strong labor standards that will ultimately be beneficial for the Mexican people. We understand the difficulties involved with the U.S. southern border, but we will not be weighing in on bilateral issues between Mexico and the United States.
Last question.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Satpal Johal, Daily Ajit. So I have a question regarding the Bill 21, which is recently passed in Quebec legislature. And it's today, fourth day, and we haven't heard a single word from you. Reason of that, and do you agree this bill discriminates the visible minorities in Quebec? And as a Prime Minister, what can you do to protect minorities in Quebec?
I have been very clear on this issue and on issues that have preceded it that my government and I personally will always stand up to defend minority rights everywhere across Canada. We do not feel that it is a government's responsibility or in a government's interest to legislate on what people should be wearing. We have a strong Charter of Rights and Freedoms that guarantees freedom of religion, freedom of expression, and we will certainly ensure that our views are well known and continue to defend Canadians' rights. Ma perspective et mes opinions là-dessus ont toujours été très claires. Nous attendons à ce qu'on protège au Canada les droits des minorités, les droits à la religion, les droits d'expression. Je suis évidemment préoccupé par une atteinte aux droits fondamentaux des Canadiens. Les Canadiens connaissent bien ma perspective là-dessus.
I have follow-up. Do you think is it time to rework notwithstanding clause of the